Oh, now we're here. Hello, Ritch Shydner.
Hello, Vicki Abelson.
Wow. Okay.
What was your name?
What was what?
Your maiden name.
My
born.
Okay, wait a minute.
What was your name when you were born?
It's just the two of us again. I just had to take it public now. We'll see if everybody can find us. What was my maiden name?
Yeah.
Well, I was born Vicki Katz, but then I was Vicki Keats, my professional name. Then I was Vicki Mindenhall. Then I was Vicki Abelson, and you know
Mindenhall was your first. Was Mindenhall your first husband?
Mindenhall was my first husband. How many times have you been married, Ritch? Let's go there.
3 times.
How long have you been?
My third marriage.
How long has this one been?
I've known her, been with her pretty much most of the time since 2003. I knew her. Wow. I met her first in 1986.
Stop it. Was she a comic?
No, she's in recovery.
So you met in the rooms?
No, let me tell you something. After my first marriage, right?
Yeah.
There was a woman I really liked. Very, very nice woman, very smart. She was a director for a television show that we all know, not necessarily news. And
oh yeah, I remember that show. It was great.
Yeah, right. So we were going out, a great time. And all of a sudden she said, she's the one who reminded me of this. She said, I think I want to try doing it and do stand-up comedy. And she said, the kids would call it ghosted. She goes, you are gone so fast. So I heard her say she wanted to be a comic. And I went, no, been there. I've been there. Not going down that trail again.
Okay, so we have to talk about that a little bit because it's so fantastical that you were married to a stand-up comic that everybody knows. Carol Liefer. I was married to a stand-up comic that not everybody knows, but some people know. A lot of people know.
I know, Gabe. Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know where to start with it. Now we're in the marriage zone. How did you meet Carol? When did you guys meet?
Well, I came from Washington, D.C. to New York City in the spring of 1979, and Carol was on the scene. So we became friendly. I mean, we were friendly for probably 6 months before things moved in another direction. I guess you'd see her around. We worked the sets together, improv, Catch a Rising Star, comic strip, the little triangle there, and some Jersey gigs, stuff like that. And then one night we were at a place called the UK Club.
God, where was that?
UK Club was an after-hours club down in the Village. It was great. I loved it. It had pinball machines and a great jukebox. And it was a mob-owned after-hours joint. Go there. There's always a Coke dealer at the bar. It was like they were on duty. They worked shift work. You got 3 to 4, you got 4 to 5. There was always party favors and whatnot there. And we just, one of those deals where we went home together and then we were together from then on, pretty much.
So, and how long were you and Carol together?
So from then, whatever that was, until we split up in officially in sometime in 85.
So you were together for a while. So when you guys were together and you were both up and coming, that was like the time when Carol was also coming up with Jerry, right? And she became pivotal in that.
Yeah, she'd gone out with Jerry, Paul Reiser, and Bill Maher before I got there. I know for sure.
So is it true that Carol, Carol's done my show. She hasn't done this show, but she's done Women Who Write a bunch of times and a few times. And she's Elaine, right? She was Elaine. Yeah?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not Larry David, Jerry Seinfeld. I was not there.
Okay.
I have no idea. I have no idea who is who.
Was it challenging? Go ahead.
Pardon? I thought they sort of modeled after Mary Todd Lincoln. That's who I thought that was. That's just the way I saw the character. That's all.
Oh, we're screwed. You know, I'm looking over here because it didn't send people notifications. A few people found us, but not even half the people that were on before when we were on for that. Anyway, it is what it is. You know what? It is what it is. And I'm just going to have to let go and let
Here
go.
we are.
Of God.
Here we are.
We're going to have
Here
a
we
good
are.
time. And, you know, the handful of people that found us will.
Namaste, whatever.
We're going to have
Let's just be here, right now, in this moment. Which moment? That moment? No, this moment. The one's coming. That moment. Grab it. No, that's gone. Give me another moment. Got a moment. I'm in the moment. Moment. Hey, oh, got moments coming here. Moments coming through with a moment.
So, all right. So the ring light is to your left. So yeah, move a little the other. Yeah, I'm just giving you the heads up because you don't want that thing blocking people's view. The 7 people that can find. Oh no, you turned it off completely. Look at you, and you don't even need
moved it. I moved it. You know, I've been around the sets quite a bit. I know lighting and staging and sound.
So, you know, for those of you that are going to come on this show,
eventually earned.
Go ahead.
And I can't believe it for this today. I'm here.
Yeah, this has really been a trip. So for those of you out there that was wondering what was going on, I was trying to get us on here with Zoom, and Zoom it has a new interface. Kept saying we were going public, and then I'd go live and it would say we weren't public. So we tried to do it on the phone like I did with Cindy. And so now we went live on Zoom and nobody got the notification. So those of you that were kind enough to find us, look, so it's just us, a little modest group of us, but we're gonna have a good time. I remember Ritch from Tons of Things. Yes, of course you do. We're going to talk about many of those things. Cindy Beagle wrote on all the Gary Marshall shows on Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy and all that stuff. So she's a comedy writer. So Ritch, one thing I didn't ask you about the other day, I noticed that you wrote on Roseanne. And I know many people that wrote on Roseanne. How long did you last on Roseanne? Because I don't know anybody that lasted very long. 2
seasons, and then they were winding down. And Jeff Foxworthy saw me on the same lot. His show had moved from ABC to NBC or vice versa, whatever. And he said, "Why don't you come right on my show?" And I thought, well, his show might last a lot longer. And they both wrapped the same time. His show lasted 1 season, I think, or 2. So I think 1 or 2 seasons and 1 season.
You got out of Roseanne before you got the boot? Because everybody I know got the boot.
Yeah, no, I don't think I was going to get the boot. I wasn't having a problem with Roseanne. I mean, everybody has a problem. Everybody had a problem with her. She didn't have a problem. It's whether she had a problem with you or not was the key factor. I mean, but I didn't have a problem with it.
And so, you know, the other day we were in another thing and you met a friend of mine, Snuffy Walden. Do you know he was the composer on Roseanne the last 4 seasons?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I figured you didn't. I thought I would share that.
I wonder if he did the music for, they had a dance sequence. She was having a baby and she was hallucinating. So it was like an idea that turned into, like, they brought in like 40 dancers. It like really was very expensive. They brought in all these dancers dancing through the delivery room, like hippies and choreographed, and it was all this like hippie music and sitars, and Snuffy probably composed the whole thing. It was a big,
he did. Well,
it didn't get to be Busby Berkeley's size, but it was quite a little bit of choreography, and employed a few dancers in Hollywood for the day.
Nice. Well, if it was one of the last 4 seasons, then yeah, that was his deal.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
So, all right, before we get into all the career stuff, and we're going to talk about that, people are saying how they recognize you and everything. And by the way, you guys, if you have questions for Ritch, you can put them up in the thing. We're a small group. We can read them all. So that's because this got fucked up. But you know what, Ritch? It's going to go on iTunes and on SoundCloud. It's going to go all over the place on YouTube. So people will find it. So we will eventually have the audience that you so not desperate. I'm desperate.
Richly deserve. Richly deserve is what you're looking for.
Richly, thank you, deserve.
There you go. So desperately need goes from desperately need to richly deserve.
That would be me. So okay, so tell everybody where you are currently.
Asheville, North Carolina.
And how did you land there?
I just was looking at Los Angeles going, I'm not going to write on staff again. I'm not trying to be an actor on any shows. So why am I living here? For what I do, I write, I try to do other projects and things. There's no reason to live here. LA is not a great place to live for middle-class retirement in my mind. And it was not getting better with everything. And so I always wanted to move back to the East Coast. I didn't want to go as far north as New Jersey or Pennsylvania, which is kind of my nexus for growing up. But I wanted to be in the mountains. I love the mountains. My mom is from this area, and I've been coming here since I was a kid. And I just love the mountains, and I love it down here.
And how about your wife?
She's born and bred in Los Angeles, never lived, except for a brief period of time when she lived in Hollywood. She never lived outside of Van Nuys.
Wow.
And she was like, look, when I first mentioned this, like, 2017, 28, 20 or whatever, she said, look, 5-6 years, we'll talk about it. I said, well, let's take a vacation and go down to Asheville. It's a cool place to visit anyway. So she checked it out and says, yeah, it looks like it'd be a good vacation place. And we came back from it. She said, let's put the house for sale. Let's go. She just dug it. She was up for the adventure. That's what it was. You had to have somebody who was a big adventure for her.
And what was she doing in Los Angeles? Was she able to take whatever she was doing to North Carolina?
Yeah, she was teaching kids music, so she's not doing that down here. She didn't want to do that. That was very in Los Angeles for her. It was a lot of time in the car going from preschool or school to school, all around to Jewish schools around Los Angeles. So for her, it was I'm going to do something else. I said, yeah, we move. Look, we sell our house here, and we're going to pocket a lot of cash. And you can decide what you want to do with the rest of your life. She's just turned 60. I like young chicks. I like them young. And,
she is young. She's a baby.
That's right. I'm 68 and I like them young. And so, she said, do what you want to do. Figure out what you want to do creatively.
So trophy wife. Sorry.
I'm her trophy husband.
You're her trophy husband. So you've been there for 2 years, but half of it, more than half of it, has been in COVID, right?
Yeah, look, before that, I was on the road, not on the road a lot, but 15, 20 weeks a year. She could count on vacation time from me for those periods of time. But we've been together every day since March 12th, like over a year, every day, all the time. And it has not been anything but better every day. It's been fantastic. I mean, very smallest of no fights of any significance, nothing. And we just enjoy each other's company. I just love this woman. I love her. I love her company. She's funny. She gets my humor. I get hers. We have a lot of language similarities. We're both in recovery. That, we have that sort of thing. And she's my muse. She comes up a lot. She could sit in a show, and she's done it before, where she'll sit in the back and somebody's next to her. She goes, I wrote that one. That's mine. That's right. I wrote that one. The first time she did that was Jimmy Brogan was next to her at the Comedy Magic Club, right? Jimmy came up to me and said, hey, your wife told me she wrote that joke. I went to her to drive home. I went, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. I once went on the Vitellos to a show there, and Kathleen Wilhoite was singing off. You know her. She's a great singer.
Yes, Kathleen's a very good friend. I love her.
She was singing. She had me do some comic relief during the show. So I did the whole show. It was a set of jokes that Rana wrote. That was it. It was every joke was joke that Rana wrote or, had a hand in some way. So that was the set. And she sat there just weaving after every joke. It was hilarious. It was great.
Did she kill? How did she do?
She does very well. She does very well. I perform her material. I'm like Roger Daltrey singing Pete Townsend songs. I perform her jokes very well.
Can you give us a Rana joke?
Yeah, I don't want to be dating at my age. I mean, a couple of 60-year-olds out on the first date, there's some interesting table conversation. So what did you used to care about? That's one of them.
That's good. She's good. I'm liking it. Gabe would ask, I would have some input. And actually, I got a couple things on Letterman a couple of times. That was pretty.
There you go, right?
But I was sitting alone in my living room going, that's mine. Nobody heard me. But it was fun. There was no Facebook to tout it on in those days.
I've written for people like, Jeff Foxworthy, and Jeff's great, and he'll adapt things to his voice. But I remember standing off to the side one time while he was performing all this new material we'd come up with together. And I felt like Ray Sharkey and Idolmaker. You know, I'm doing the moves with him, right? I'm off on the side behind the curtain. Boom, boom, right? Yeah, boom. Each time he does a joke, I'm like, yeah, all right.
You know,
that
is a weird reference to make, in the fact that I know that I not only saw the Idolmaker, I saw Ray Sharkey and the entire cast, Peter Gallagher, at a talk back at like the New School when that movie first came out. What a great movie that was.
Yeah, it really was.
I've ever heard reference it. Thank you. That was great. By the way, while we're here, before I forget, Cindy says, were you on Roseanne when Tom was on and they asked people to shave their heads for $4,000?
No, I was not there. Or I might have been there and I forgot. I don't remember it. Either way.
So now in the Roseanne days, were you sober already?
Oh yeah. I was allegedly working with Tom, but Tom had he had different plans back then. Really, he was, yeah. But he was a good guy, and he's doing very well now.
Everybody's saying how great you look. Happiness is the key. Okay, women, does Ritch not look like, oh my God, like Ed Harris? Ritch is sporting the Ed Harris look. I've been saying
this is all my wife's doing. And let me tell you something, I didn't think this kind of happiness was even possible. I only had two modes. Only had two modes in relationship. I had two switches, two on my switch. It was lust and loathing. That's all I had, lust and loathing. So I didn't know this was possible. I am the most taken care of man in America, honestly. She feeds me so well. She everything is, and I never been honored like this or been made feel like I'm valuable, you know. At a certain point, I became an irritant, you know, and she gets me. Like if I'm off thinking, you know, I'm thinking about something, right? You're a comic, right? You're deep in your head. I'm in the skull deep, mulling something over, having a conversation 1,000 miles away with somebody who's not even in the room, right?
Right.
And she'll say my name, and she sees that look on my face, and she knows he's not here. I'm going to say his name 3 more times, and he'll respond on the 5th time I say his name, and she's okay with that. But in the past, women be like, you ignore me. You constantly ignore me. And I'm like, no, I'm not ignoring you. I'm deep in thought. You know, that's my workshop. My workshop is not out in the garage, you know, right? It's not a tool bench in a garage. My workshop is in here. Most comics, male or female.
I love this. Wait, I can't hear you. You're not talking anymore. Okay. You're No,
shut up.
I went over to Facebook to make sure that we were still on. Weird shit's going on, but it doesn't matter because we're here and they're saying great conversation, so they don't care. And I was just making fun of another interview you did where the interviewer did all the talking and telling all of his stories, and I haven't shut up. So that's not usually my style, but we're gonna talk. So, all right. So you met your wife in the conversation. You met your wife in the 80s. Tell me what happened then. And how did you get from here?
Okay, when we met in 86, I just got out of my marriage with Carol.
Okay.
So I was not, first of all, I was newly sober and just out of a divorce. I was not fit for human consumption. And I was not in any way looking to settle down. You know, I had a rotating, you know, I had a schedule. I mean, she came over one time. She reminded me of the story. She came over one time in the daytime, like 4 o'clock, and I answered the door. I went, "Oh no! You're not scheduled for 5 o'clock. You're not. Okay. No. You got to call. You got to call ahead. You know, okay, I was running hard. Right. Look, the only thing I had left was that I was smoking cigarettes and you know, I'd quit drinking and drugging, and I was newly sober, and I was divorced, and I was just going crazy. So she said one time, you know, I showed up at her place of work with cowboy boots that she left at my apartment, you know, because I didn't want women marking their territory. You know what I mean? So I was like, no, you're not leaving boots here. She said, I came and showed up with cowboy boots and a paper bag going, here they are, you know, here are your boots.
And, okay, so when you first met and you were having this rotating, so you weren't even on the radar that she was special at this time, or did you already?
Oh no. She was in the rotation. That's all. It's in the rotation. That's all she was. there's nothing I go, I couldn't recognize Special. If Special showed up, I wouldn't have recognized it. Believe me, Vicki, there was no way I could recognize it. I was just running. I was so raw and honestly, frightened, scared, whatever. I was not going to be hurt or set up like that again. And all the things that you feel like when you come out of a relationship that just crashed, so badly. So and then I was newly sober, which I was just raw. So it was not possible. And then we both went off to different, she got married to a guy and I got married to a woman, and those marriages collapsed around the same time in 2003, and we ran into each other again. And
had you not seen each other in the interim during those?
No, not since probably 1988 to 2003, whatever that is, 15 years, whatever. No.
Okay, so
then
now you see her for the first time again, Ritch, and sorry to interrupt. And what is your initial take when you see her for the first? Do you want to run for the? Do you remember what you did with the cowboy boots?
My initial take was probably like, hey, I can pick right up here. This was I'm bounced out of another marriage. Look who's back. It's the Red Cross. It's the divorce Red Cross is here to heal my wounds. That's probably what I thought. Look, she shows up every 15 years. She shows up to help me heal my wounds, bandage me up. I'm the English patient now. I'm all burned up from an airplane crash. She'll heal me. But it worked out totally different. I mean, we went through a lot of things over these years, and around 2018, I went, what am I, nuts? I'm not doing better than this. There's no way I'm doing better than this. And so I asked her to marry me.
Okay, wait, you skipped ahead too many stages. When you were...
That's a woman. A guy would be like, yeah, that's all you need to know. It went there and then started over there. That's it.
I want the love story. How long did it take till you realized from the time you met her, I could pick right up again? How long did it take you to realize, no, this one?
I realized I loved her, around 2016.
Yeah.
Around 2015, I lost my sponsor.
Oh.
I lost my recovery spiritual mentor, Vic Anderson, an unbelievable guy. And she lost her mother. Her father died years before she lost her mother. So we were both like young grief, and it wasn't going, we just were like not communicating at all. And she goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to release you back into the wild. And I'm like, release me back into the wild? I'm a toothless old zoo lion now. I got no chance in the wild. What are you doing? Release me into the wild. I'm 54-year-old. I'm used to being fed and put down for the night. You know what I mean? So you can't just toss me out of the wild. I got no chance out there. But she was very clever. Looking back, she was very clever. What she did is, you can go, we were living together, right? So she goes, you can go stay at my friend's house, Judy's. Go stay over at Judy's house, right? Until you figure out where you want to go, right? So she has me like 2 blocks away, and every day she's having a little visit with me every day, little conjugal visit every day. So she keep my temperature down and me close by. So she just really released me into a side paddock. She didn't put me in the wild. She just put me into another pasture. I didn't even know there was a fence there. I didn't even notice it.
How long did that last?
I asked for like 2 weeks. And she said, get back over here. She's like, get back over here. I go, okay, I'm coming.
And how long after that did you propose to her?
Not long. It was that, maybe a year later, something like that.
What do you think, Ritch, is okay, so when you were still working with Carol, you guys are still on the scene together and everything, how did you guys handle that professionally? Was that a nightmare? What was that like?
Well, there were certain people who were her friends I didn't hear from anymore. That's all. And I'm sure there were people on the same side they were my friends that didn't have much to do with her after that. So, we didn't have much to divide materially. But I do remember we argued over some Beatle albums, which was kind of funny. As if they weren't still making Beatle albums in 1985, right?
But records were a very important thing. I mean, in my first marriage, the whole fight was over the albums. Everything was over.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It was ridiculous looking back. But there's something, you're a little raw, I guess, and that was it. It was nothing really big. I mean, look, Jacoby and Myers, literally, Jacoby and Myers handled our first divorce.
Oh, come on, stop that. Oh my God.
I think I can still remember that it was like a $250 thing, and that was it.
Did you guys work together? Did you work together subsequently ever?
I can't remember if we did. I don't think we did. I don't remember. I'd see her around, Bill Mars or something like that. And I was very glad when she fell in love and got married again to Lori. I think her name is Lori. And I'm very glad for her. They have a child together, and I'm very happy for her. So no, after a while you just go, we were like, it was a showbiz, like, well, we're just hanging out. I think it's like, what's to do next? I think really for Carol, look, honestly, Carol was like, when we got married, I think she was like, whatever, 20, 24, 25 or whatever, when we got married. I noticed we'd gone to a lot of weddings. A lot of her friends were getting married. I think it was the fact is she was tired of being the bride, the maid of honor. It's like, hey, I'm tired of being a supporting role. I need the starring role one time, But can I get the starring role here?
And you were willing
honestly,
to be her leading man.
Yeah, and truly, I propose we were tripping on acid. That's what we were tripping on acid. So if you're with a woman and you see rainbows coming out of her eyes, you got to marry her. I mean,
what year was that? What year did you guys?
That's on a sign. 1981. And next thing I know, plans are being made, and they had a hard time finding a rabbi who would marry us. I mean,
why? Oh,
why?
because you're Jewish. Of course.
Kidding me? Not only was I Jewish, I was blonde-haired, blue-eyed. I'm sure they did a background check to find out if anybody had been out of. Did his family emigrate from Austria in 1946? Let's check this out.
Okay,
I'm sure.
How are her parents with you?
Well, her parents are great. And I know she wrote in a book that she said her father was disappointed that she married a Shagets, but I don't know who was lying on that one, because I got a letter from her parents after we split. Her parents were very good to me. Her father was an optometrist, and I remember he was so nice to me. He came and he had all these old frames. These glasses, I have literally had a shoebox filled with old frames because he was retiring. So he was very generous and just made sunglasses for me. And her mother was very, very nice, and when we divorced, when we separated, I wrote a letter to them telling them what great in-laws they were and how
Lovely.
I always felt, and I still have the letter. They wrote a 2-page, 3-page letter back, really nice. So I don't feel there was any kind of problem there.
That's really lovely. I don't know where I have like 15 directions I want to go, but before we get more back to career stuff, tell me how it's been with the COVID over there in North Carolina. What were you doing, Rich, when I assume you guys went into lockdown around the same time we did in March? Did you have gigs booked? Were you?
Oh, I had gigs wiped out. I'm doing this show on the history of stand-up comedy. And I had about 20 dates booked and 4 festivals. I was going to do comedy festivals, and that all just got wiped out. We're still not coming back now. I had cruise ship dates that were booked. They were wiped out.
Right.
So that was just the way it was. I mean, but fortunately, I feel bad for the young comics. I really felt bad for the young comics, because they're the ones that really need that time. They're growing and they're making their careers. I'm on the other side of it. I'm in total golden time. I mean, whatever I do, whatever I am able to do in this business is just a gift at this point. A gift.
Why did you say that you didn't think you'd be writing anymore in television, staffed anymore? Is that because of ageism? Is that why?
Oh yeah, sure. Look, people who had more substantial writing careers for TV than I did are not getting work. Bob Nickman or the people I know, they're not getting work anymore. What happens is it's not. I don't think it's ageism is a negative thing. The shows are geared towards younger people. That's who's buying That's who's making the choices for cars and motorcycles and what type of beer they want to drink. People my age don't make choices anymore. They reach reflexively for whatever they've been doing for years. They're not selling to us. So the shows are geared towards younger people. So they want younger people writing to have a show that appeals to other younger people. That just totally makes sense. I don't find that negative at all.
Wow.
I have something to offer. I still have things to offer, and I do offer them up. I wrote a screenplay about the first stand-up comic. I'm writing a book. I'm doing things.
Hey, wait. So what's going on with that? Tell us a little bit. You posted about it today. Tell us a little bit about the first stand-up comic, Ritch. His
name was Artemis Ward, and he started doing stand-up comedy at the beginning of the Civil War in 1861. He's an incredible guy, incredible. He made a name for himself back writing a funny newspaper article, like a letters to the editor thing, a funny thing. Back when newspapers was all the entertainment you had. There was no radio, no television, no internet. People read newspapers for information and for humor. And he had this very funny thing, and he made a name for himself. His real name was Charles Farrar Brown. And he lived in what was then West. The West then was Cleveland. He lived in Cleveland. Cleveland City in 1860 was about 60,000 people. And he decided that he was going to do this thing, this new thing. Nobody had ever done it. They had these lecture series.
Let me just ask you a question. You're telling me that in Europe, all those years, there were, I know there were jesters and there were no stand-up comics all through.
But you got to stand up. Look, there are people who did funny things on stage. There always were people who did funny things.
Right.
But you got to understand. I'm talking about stand-up comedy is one person performing for the express intent of making a live audience laugh. That's it. That's all that person's doing. Okay. It's not a two-person play or sketches. They're out there by themselves doing it. There was nobody had done this. There were minstrel shows where they had, 4 people on stage together doing like sketch work and going back and forth banter like a team. That's not stand-up. Stand-up solo. They had clowns and circuses who were to make up and all the stuff, and they do what they call a little stump speech, where they sort of mock a politician's stump speeches back then. The little part of their show was that, just a little part, but the rest of it was all clown things. Nobody was doing what he's doing. He said he was going to go on. Walt Whitman was one of his friends, and Walt Whitman says, "What are you going to do up there?" He says, "I intend to go up there and make them laugh as long as they can." That was his whole purpose. And comedy was then not a whole, there was no whole comedy shows. Comedy was only a little part of any play. Every play had to have a moral lesson, right? There was a lesson to that. Be good to your son, be good to your mother, be good to, you know what I mean? There's a lesson that slavery is bad, drinking is bad. Lectures, everything was about lessons. And so he comes in, he goes, "I'm just going to make them laugh." And older people would walk out of his show and go, "I laughed, but I didn't learn anything. It's an incredible waste of time. I didn't learn anything." He was doing something radical, very, very pioneering. But it became a hit because in war, people looked for something really different, and they really loved this thing. And young people went nuts for it. And he was a huge hit, young guy.
Wow. So, well, okay. So that's okay. So you've written.
He dated the first sex symbol in America. Ida Menken did a play where she took this old play. It was an old play. Because she learned from Artemis. She said she was friends with Artemis. She goes,
right,
he's doing something radical. In the wartime, if you want to make a name for yourself, you have to do something radical. So there's an old play about a guy, a soldier, who got betrayed and then tied to a horse and sent into the forest. So it's called Mazeppa, right?
Yeah.
So she is a very athletic woman. So she dresses like a male soldier. She looks like a man, right? She's in a soldier, plays the whole first part of the play. Everybody thinks she's a man. She's got her hair tucked up under the helmet, and she's got this blousy thing you can't tell, right? And then when they strip her down at the end to put her on a horse, the audience goes crazy because she's got this flesh-colored suit on, right? And she's got big breasts and big hips, right? And she's a woman, and the place goes crazy. And her hair comes down, and she cheated. She cut slits. She cut parts of the flesh-colored thing out, so she's hanging out all over the place, man. She's showing real flesh. Say, tired of the horse, and her breasts are falling out, and the horse goes up this, fake stage thing. And soldiers, guys and they were going absolutely out of their mind. They didn't see ankles back then. They didn't see anything below the neck. This was Victorian, man. They were like, women were here to the ankles covered. And she became America's first sex symbol. I have these pictures that were like sold underground that she took, and sold these pictures of her. And it's almost laughable how much clothing she has on now. But then it was like, my God, she's showing part of her thigh. People were going crazy.
Rich, what really strikes me about this story is that here, the first sex symbol in America fell in love with the first comedian. Now I married now it just goes to show the old adage is true that what women fall for first, if you make a woman laugh, that's the deal, right? I mean, it worked for you for a lot of comings and goings.
All things being equal. I mean,
you're also a good-looking guy, and yes, you have it all going on. But I really think that the thing that probably got more women to open their legs was you making them laugh than anything, I would imagine, right? It's an aphrodisiac, isn't it?
But look, I know the limits of it. I remember I learned this lesson. I was in college. I'll tell you the limits.
Okay.
Sophomore year of college, my girlfriend at the time, I just got things going well with her, right? Her and her girlfriend says, we want to go see this concert at this other school, Todd Rundgren, who I know a little bit, Todd Rundgren, right?
Right.
So we're going to go see Todd. So I borrow a car from a friend. I drive him over. Now we're driving over. I'm making them laugh. I can remember this. I got it going on. I go, I'm like the king of the car. I'm the only guy, and I'm making them laugh or a great time. We get in this concert. Todd Rundgren starts playing. I remember looking over at their faces, and I said, I've never seen that look on a woman's face before. That was pure fucking lust. They were like, I go, oh, that's another level of seduction. That's rock star level. That's a whole nother thing, So I know the limits of being a joker, but I'm not.
I guess the comic would lose to the rock star, but the comic.
But there were no rock stars in 1861. That's the whole point.
Is that true? There weren't like.
No, well, there were musicians and there were always musicians. But he was friends with Lincoln. He would go into the White House late at night because show people are looked down upon. And Mary Todd Lincoln was a teetotaler. Lincoln was a teetotaler, but she did not like show people. So Artemis would sneak in the middle of the night because Lincoln was up all night working, and they'd swap stories. He'd make Lincoln laugh and refresh Lincoln. Lincoln would go, I'm refreshed now, thank you, and I go back to work. He had a good time with Artemis. Artemis made him laugh, and then Artemis would leave. Artemis was a drinker. He liked to drink. He liked weed. He couldn't. He had tuberculosis, so he couldn't smoke.
Wait a minute. There was weed in.
Oh yeah.
That's my drug. Yeah. That was my drug of choice.
Oh
really?
Yeah. It's called. It was hashish, and they used to go to the drugstores were called apothecaries, and they sold it over the counter. No laws against it whatsoever. Wow. So he hung out. One of his friends was a guy named Fitz Ludlow, right? Who wrote a book called The Hashish Eater. He was an experimenter in psychedelics and hashish in 1858.
That's crazy.
I got copies of the book. He was a real dude, and so that was one of his friends. And he goes, you know what the experience when he wrote in the book? He said, because Artemis goes, what is it going to feel like the first time? He says, well, you will have a increased appetite, you will giggle, and you'll have a fine appreciation for music.
Really?
And so they go get high and go listen to a band outside play, and
it was the munchies, the music, it was all the same shit.
All same stuff, same shit. And they called in the newspaper, I have newspaper articles where they called Artemis a lotus eater, because sometimes they'd have to go out and get him to bring him in for the show because he's out getting high and wandering around a park or something.
Okay, that was my next question. So he was getting high to make people laugh.
No, well, he didn't. I don't think he performed high. I think he was not getting a high laugh. I think he was a drinker, big drinker, no doubt about it. He liked his cocktails. Him and Mark Twain hooked up out in Virginia City in Nevada. Wow. So he's the one that taught Wayne how to do it. He taught Twain how to. When they had a week together drinking and partying in 1864, and when they split up. Mark Twain was just Samuel Clemens, and he was a newspaper editor. Right. Obviously, before he died, there was only a year difference between the two of them. They were almost like brothers. And Artemis Ward said to him, "You're a funny guy. You should write something funny." And Mark Twain for him says, "I got something here for you." And he gives him a story he'd written. It's Jim Smiley's Jumping Frog, which became the Jumping Frog of Calaveras County, which was the first story that Twain published. Was published by Artemis Ward's publisher. Artemis Ward took it back to New York and gave it to his publisher. And that put Twain on the map.
Wow, this is crazy. Okay, so you wrote a
He's
screenplay.
a legit star. He was P.T. Barnum he hung out with him. He was legit star, but he died. He was only 32 years old. He died in England. He had tuberculosis. And he always wanted to go to England to see how his show would do there, because England was a center of culture, more so than today. You got to remember, we were the colonies, just newly formed as a country, but England was it, culturally.
Was
So
was he considered an artist here, Ritch?
Oh, well, I don't know. He definitely was considered something. It was very, I don't even know what they didn't call it comedian. He was a humorist. He was called he was called a funny lecturer. They didn't have the word stand up at all. But
right.
He went to England. He always had it in his mind. He wanted to go to England and see how he would fare there. And he killed him. He Dickens, all the big literary ones came out to see him. He joined the Lunch Club, a very literary club that would have been like sort of Monty Python of the day. He joined that. He was a huge hit. The king, Prince Victoria's Prince, the future king of England, was a huge fan of his. 27-year-old prince. They all came out. His pack sold out. He died there in England of tuberculosis. The fog, London fog, killed him. You can't have tuberculosis. They didn't know about tuberculosis then, and what you should do, like go to Arizona instead of go to London, right?
Right. All right. So you're right.
They gave him a funeral. Yeah.
Do you have somebody in mind that you would like to play him?
Yeah. Well, I was already thinking about it before I wrote it. And when I started watching the show Girls on HBO and saw Adam Driver, the first time I saw him, I went, "That's Artemis Ward."
No kidding.
He does deadpan comedy terrifically, and he looks like him. He's a tall, thin guy with a prominent nose, which is like Artemis Ward. I thought, that's the guy right there. And then, of course, he became such a huge star, and I have no way of getting the script to him. I'm struggling to even get it around to people. I don't have a representation right now, so that's that.
Okay, so you wrote that. So what else were you doing just prior to the pandemic? So you had all this stuff booked. You were doing live shows about the history of comedy. So when the world came crashing to a stop, to a halt, because I was telling you, we're the COVID crazies. So how were you guys dealing with it in North Carolina? Were you in lockdown? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, I just found things to do. I was working. We have 2 acres of property here in the woods, and working, doing clearing land, brush, writing a lot. I didn't feel bored at all. We had to pull in the financial strings a little bit. Look what we were doing. Be careful. We was not making money. It was a big hit. All those cruise ships and those other shows.
Absolutely.
But we're doing okay. I mean, compared to other people, I don't feel like we're. I'm lucky. That's all. We're lucky. And I didn't feel like I spent my time writing and doing other things. That's all.
Did you guys?
My parents.
How did you handle being out in the world? And still, are you guys vaccinated over there?
Yeah, we're both vaccinated, and we always took masks, and we just isolated people. We just didn't go out in the world. We didn't go around people. I have my 89 and 88-year-old parents down in Florida, and I didn't want to bring anything down to them. So I was visiting them all the time. That's the only thing we do is drive down there and come back. We drive down and drive back. It's one of the reasons why I moved here. And it was not seeing anybody. That's all. We didn't see anybody.
So, but you went like to the grocery store and stuff, I assume.
Oh yeah. We masked up and we went to the grocery store, and we were very careful. Ronald was like wiping things down, and it was like you're being very careful. That's all there was to it. But everything we do down here is very careful. Asheville itself is it's a little blue dot in a red state, basically, or a red county anyway, for I say that. And it's everybody wears masks and very respectful in the distancing, and I don't feel any kind of problem.
So has life changed for you guys? We're going to get into the career stuff. I just want a couple more COVID questions. Has life changed for you guys now that you're vaccinated? Because we've been talking about the fact that we've gotten kind of phobic.
Well, yeah, we once we got vaccinated, we're back in our swingers club. That's the whole point of it. And nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. Not shame. You know, every time I hear Swingers Club, I think of people our age. You just go, oh, please don't do that. Don't do that.
Back in your swingers.
Back our Swingers Club, you know.
Wait, we got.
I had listen to this, Vicki, this is the truth. This is true. Just a couple of years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, there was a guy I knew, it's a true story. A guy, this is why I thought of this. There was a guy I knew in college, I knew him in college. Great guy, big guy, football player, big guy, great guy. I've not seen him. I graduated in 1974, so this is like 2014, so like 44 years, right? I had not seen this guy in 44 years, whatever. 34 years, 30, whatever. I hadn't seen the guy in many years.
Oh, math, blonde.
Yeah, whatever. So I read this thing in the Gettysburg magazine, college magazine.
Yeah.
That he renounced his retirement and he's opening up a brewery up in Oregon, and he had his email there. So I go, hey, Duke, you know, I sent him an email. How you doing? And Rich, I don't remember me and but I always think of you once in a while. How you doing? How you and your wife doing? He sends back, we're doing very well. It's pictures of him. He sends back literally pictures, naked pictures of him and his wife in an orgy. Now I think, because he was always a funny guy, I think he found these somewhere, you know, on the internet, printing them out. I go, you know what I mean? It's like goofing with me. I've not talked to the guy in 34 years, nothing. So I sent back this thing. That's very funny, my man, but I know that's not your wife. Your wife, you know, who I knew then, I knew her then. That wasn't her in the picture. He goes, oh no, she died. This is my new wife. She's game. She's game. And he sends back more pictures.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I'm like, there was no response. I had no response for that. I think I said, you know, some people you just don't really know them at 18 the way things are going to be 40 years later or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, and I remember I've told other people who knew him, you know, back in college, I told them, they go, yeah, that's I said, yeah, that is not expected. You know what I mean? You think maybe at least a couple of opening gambits before you went there, you know, like, hey, how's it going? Yeah, we got these kids. She died. I got a new wife. She likes gardening. I like to fish once in a while.
Maybe a little low-cut shirt first.
Yeah. Don't you think she got a sexy body? Yeah. You know, and then maybe after 3 or 4 emails and a couple of, hey, let's get together sometime. Maybe when you come out here, you might join our club. Here we are. Then you kind of.
This is hysterical. By the way, Laura says that women all over the 1800s were addicted to laudanum, which was nothing more than opium. Is that true?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There was that. But Ida Menken wasn't. She died young too, by the way. She died like,
really?
I think she was like 34, something like that. She died over in Europe mysteriously. I'm not really sure what happened. But she was not a drug addict. Laudanum was a big thing. And of course, in the Civil War, they got them all addicted to morphine. There was a huge problem with morphine after the war. That's why Sears catalog used to sell morphine and hypodermic needles, you know, through Sears catalog. You could buy it because there was so much addiction with the Civil War. Yeah, soldiers in the Civil War, you know, they sawed off their arms or legs or whatever, and they had the only thing they just gave them morphine. I mean, that was a huge addiction problem back in the 19th century, and laudanum was part of it. That was Edgar Allan Poe's stuff, you know.
So everything old is new again. They had pot stores back then. You know, they were selling just like
it was just now, right? There were no rules. There was no FDA. There was no Druggist Association. The apothecary. How's he? What's his qualification to be apothecary? He spelled a sign right. To the degrees, you know what I mean?
Okay. Lynn says, I want to hear Sugar Blues. Oh, okay. So Snuffy's on here, Rich, and he says, hey. It was great to hear you, and he wants to thank you again for the Sugar Blues recommendation. Please talk to us about this, because me and the COVID crazies I have tried everything, and I know that you speak about sugar. Tell us about your sugar thing.
Well, that was the first addiction. I mean, you know, and I don't think there was anything off in my generation. We got dosed with sugar. My mom, you know, we had sugar. My cousin and I, same age as me, when we were young kids, we would literally eat a half gallon of ice cream each. You know, we were young and burning it. And I always had a sugar problem. When I got sober, it went crazy. And I didn't, say, oh, I never had an eating disorder, but I did. When I first got sober, I was still smoking cigarettes and I was running, and I would eat at night a pint of Haagen-Dazs and a pound bar of Hershey's with almonds. I mean, that was a ritual.
All right, wait,
every
stop
night.
right here. Wait a minute. I know you to be tall and thin. Okay, so now when you were a kid,
I was running 8, 9, 10 miles a day. I was
when,
running like crazy, running. I was running.
When you got sober, you were running?
Yeah, when I got sober, I started running. I couldn't sit for meditation. So this guy I met in the rooms, I met this guy who said, why don't you try what the yogis call active meditation, where, run, don't put a Walkman on, don't listen to music or radio or anything in the headphones. Just see what comes under your mind and running. And I got into running and I loved it. And but I would run, exercise like crazy. I'm a comic. I'd come home at night after being at the Improv or the Comedy Store, whatever in town, and I would literally, as a ritual, 1 a.m, whatever, I would sit down and eat a pint of Haagen-Dazs. It was usually Swiss almond, chocolate, Swiss almond, vanilla.
Love that one.
And I love, obviously nuts and chocolate, and a full pound Hershey chocolate bar, big thick thing, and every night. And I go into a coma, sugar coma. And I do that through relationships, in my second marriage. Rana will tell you, my wife now, she said, I was like an alcoholic. I'd hide candy bars everywhere. I'd hide them in the house. I'd hide them in the car. I'd go say, hey, I'm taking my kid back to their mother's house, right? I'm taking the kid back. So I'd stop and get some gas on the way home, and I'd go in, in an AM, PM mini mart, and I'd buy 5 candy bars. And I'd eat them before I came home, and then destroy the wrappers would just get tossed in the trash,
So you had shame around this, I'm assuming, if you were hiding it. You had shame.
I was hiding it because it was shame, because I knew I was disconnecting. I knew, like somebody like, you'd be stoned. There's that, and then the crash. And a crash, I'd watch TV just out of it. You can't communicate. You can't be present. You talk about not being present. It's like.
So how did you become aware, and then how did you kick it?
Over years, I struggled with it for years, and I have lots of friends. I'm not. These are men, guys I know who have a hard time admitting food disorders. I think more difficult time. Maybe there's not as prevalent. It's almost like old days when women would drink and they couldn't admit they were drinkers back in 100 years ago, because we're so shameful more for women than guys.
There's still shame around it. There's still.
Yeah, but for guys, the guys I know, let's just say the guys I know. I'm not going to go everywhere. But there was a core of guys that I talked to, one of my buddies from college who's also sober now, and we talk all the time about it, and help each other, try to help each other. And I just have to stay off it. If I don't, people come to go, I'm an alcoholic with sugar. Then somebody will go, hey, you want a slice of pie? I go, a slice? That's not enough. You can't start me with a slice. My mom would cook for me when I go to visit her, even not recent. I used to love these Boston cream pies, right? They're like layered cake with cream in the middle, covered with chocolate. She'd cook 2 this big, like 12-inch, 14, right? First night I eat one by myself, just eat it. Eat the thing first night, just eat one. And then she's cooking something else. So every night I'm eating a full pie.
I cannot believe you don't weigh 700 pounds. All the women in the world.
I'm not kidding you, because I would run maniacally, because I would exercise maniacally to get it off. And then I wouldn't eat much the next day. I don't eat breakfast, and I don't eat the, what I mean? I would wake up hungover. I could wake up with a sugar hangover, like just cloudy headed, just like.
So Rich, how did you start to get a handle on this, and how long ago did you start to get a handle on it?
Well, I've been getting a good handle on the last 10 years, probably last 10 years, but done very well. I have some moments, some streaks where I go, oh, I get off it, and then a few days later come back. But my periods of abstinence are way longer.
Okay, so tell me, like, what is the psyche? What is the mindset?
I cannot. I don't drink. I don't have sugar in my coffee. I never had a problem with it in the daytime, because I know it messes up my head, and I can't write. I can't work. I can't focus. Wow. I cannot focus when I'm coming off of sugar or high on sugar. I can't. So the nighttime is my dangerous time, right? Because then
Right.
I'm not
That's
working.
my
I'm not-
snacking time, yeah.
snack time.
Mhm.
So, I have cantaloupe, sometimes popcorn, dry popcorn, dry popcorn.
Did you cold turkey it, or did you
Oh
ease
yeah,
your
cold turkey. No, cold turkey. Cold turkey. I can't. I'm not a chipper. I can't chip it. I can't. I told you I can't. I can't go. Okay, I'll just have one bar tonight. Now, I have one bar. I'm gonna find a reason to go down to the gas station and get 5 more candy bars. I don't have
Okay,
one.
so when you first did it, did you have withdrawal? Because
Oh God, I mean, literally, it's like it is a drug. There's no question in my mind. To me, it's a drug. I have withdrawals. I am angry. I'm snappish. I'm irritable, discontent. Everything you think about, like coming off of alcohol or drugs, is the same with sugar. It's that powerful for me. And there's a lot of because I know how it affects me. Really do. I mean, you look at caffeine and sugar is like it's a sober speedball. It's it doesn't affect your time in terms of sobriety. It doesn't affect you don't feel like this, but I take the sugar out. I don't have it in anything. I don't sneak it in
did
some
you
other
have
way.
physical withdrawal?
Yes, I told you, I feel irritable. I feel like
No, but I mean, when you kicked it, I mean, I know that's what it is when you're coming down off of it, but when you stopped, when you did the cold turkey.
Yes. There's a couple of days when it's like I'm feeling it. I don't feel like doing anything. I don't have any energy. It's not a flu. I think caffeine's worse, just for the physical withdrawal. I'm not the National Institute of Health or anything, but
Did you stop caffeine also?
no.
'Cause
I do.
that's out of the question.
From time to time, I do. I just try to go, look, I don't have any caffeine after noon. I had to say afternoon. I have it in the morning, and after that, it's water. So I'm doing okay with this. I'm doing okay. I have to watch other things. Look, the other things that are like sugar in my body, pizza, any breads, pasta. Those are things that I go in there. You give me 2 plates of pasta, and I'm going to go into a coma. I'm just going to. That's it.
So you don't do that either?
Once in a while, every 2 weeks, my wife will cook me spaghetti because she knows I love it. But I'm just saying, it is what it is. But it's not the next day or whatever. It's not affecting me like the sugar does. The sugar is a whole nother thing. Refined sugar is a whole nother thing.
And how's your health having done that for so long? Did it impact your health?
I don't think so. He says that right before he has a stroke and dies.
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, Vicki. I mean, I feel like, look, I'm still running. I run 3 miles every day. I do, exercises, push-ups, sit-ups, yoga. I went to this woman up in Ojai taught this old stiff white guy yoga. That was the class called. I loved it. Old stiff white guy yoga. And so I got like 5 positions from there. I do that, and I stand on my head. I do some things that I have to do every day. I have to pray and meditate. I do meditate now. I sit and meditate.
I was going to ask you, do you still do the moving meditation? No, now you
I still run. I don't have any, but running is, look, it's one of the most creative times for me, because I'll be running after I've written in the morning, and whatever I'm writing about, that's what's coming into my head. Ideas come, I go, I can't believe it. I have to bring my phone, my memo on my iPhone. I'm running and I have these ideas coming, because otherwise the most I can remember is 3, like I'm 3 miles, right? So the most I can remember is like 3 ideas when I come back. And sometimes that's not enough. So I usually run with my iPhone and plus there are bears up here. So I want a record of the bears attacking me. I want it on video.
No, you're really killing me, because I struggle with meditation. I listen to a Calm app every morning, but when I've been speed walking for about 30 years, and I used to speed walk with a Deepak meditation, but I did my best writing then. I would talk into my iPhone, and now I speed walk with Cindy Beagle, the comedy writer, and I talk to her. But you know what? I really got to go back to doing some days on my own, because the best ideas come.
I mean, every once in a while I'll run with somebody, but I know I'm being social. I'm doing a social thing then. But I'm very selfish about that time. I'm very selfish.
You remind me, that is so true. Oh my God. All right. So tell us, how we hear about this giving up the sugar. How was it getting sober? And what did addiction look like for you, Ritch?
Well, I was a binge drinker for many, many years, and then the binges got closer and closer together. Then it just became one long binge. At the end, I remember when I first got sober, I thought I'd hear people talking about drinking in the daytime, and I go, "Oh, I didn't drink in the daytime." Then I realized I didn't wake up till 2 PM, and I started drinking not long after I got up. Our friend Mark Schiff. You know Mark Schiff,
Yeah,
right?
Mark did the show. Yeah,
Good guy. Yeah. He saw me once. He reminded me of this. I don't even remember it. Obviously, he saw me. I was drunk in a day, getting tossed out of a post office in West Hollywood. So that's the level. It was embarrassing. You're not cool. You're not hip. There's nothing. You're not at Barney's Beanery shooting pool with a leather jacket. You're getting tossed out of a post office in West Hollywood in the daytime. Nothing cool left. So it was time. It was time to. I was a cliche,
Did it start? Did you start young? Was it in your?
Alcoholism all over my family, man. All over. We have generation. Look. Let's put it this way. My family, they landed in this country in 1721 from Germany. Right? They were tossed out of Germany in 1721. They landed in South Jersey. Never moved out of South Jersey. And never got ownership of anything. In other words, landed in the land of the greatest economic opportunity in the history of the world, and didn't do anything. Do you think they're drinking? You think there's some drinking behind my family? The biggest group of underachievers. Plus, my name Shydner. My name is spelled. The name originally was Schneider, like Rob Schneider.
Right.
But somebody got drunk and angry at somebody else in the family and switched some letters. That's how it got to be Shydner. They just switched some letters because they got angry at somebody, just drunken resentments. That's all. It's my dad's side of family, my mom's side of family. Her dad was a preacher and a moonshiner right up here in the mountains of North Carolina. So, you're selling booze to them all week, and then Sunday tell them to stop drinking booze. He's making money 7 days a week.
Wow. Okay. So now, how old are you when you start? Is this part of
11.
like 11?
No, 12. 1965.
Do you remember your first drunk?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it was so important. I was so desperately, I needed it. I was having panic attacks before that. I couldn't, figure out what they were. And I was so fearful, and I needed it badly. And it was alcohol. It was ethyl alcohol sold by DuPont chemical factory plant.
No.
It was a big chemical factory. My hometown was a huge chemical factory, DuPont, and right across from Wilmington, Delaware. And we had the plant on the Jersey side, and everybody's dad worked there. And my friend's older brother was a chemist there, and he brought us a pint of ethyl 100% ethyl alcohol, and we mixed it with lemonade. And I was a blackout drunk the first time. I woke up covered in vomit and couldn't wait to do it again. I ran around like a maniac, like a 12-year-old maniac, and thought I was the greatest thing in the world.
So what turned for you? How many years did you imbibe, would you say?
20 years. 12 to 32.
What got you to quit? Did you have a bottom?
I was done. I tried everything to stop, Vicki. I tried everything. And I mean, I remember specifically one time I was with Carol, and I told her I was going to go down to Barney's Beanery and shoot some pool. That's it. Just going to have a beer, because I wasn't doing coke anymore, and I'm not smoking weed. I'm not doing it. And I went down there, and the next thing I know, I woke up out of a blackout, driving my car through the Grapevine towards Bakersfield with two guys in the car who I didn't know who they were. So wow. I've come out of blackouts and accidents. I've come out of blackouts a lot of times. That's what cocaine did for me, and speed did for me. It kept me from being a blackout, kept me a wide awake drunk instead of a blackout drunk. And but boy, when you come out of a blackout with strangers in the car, you can't go, "Hey, who are you guys?" You got to come out sly. Hey, did I say where we're going? Did I mention that? I mean, I'm just curious. We were going to Bakersfield because apparently Los Angeles had run out of cocaine, and I knew a dealer in Bakersfield. That's what the plan was.
Oh my God. Okay, so you wake up with you get out. Okay, so what was did you go for help to quit? How did you do it? What did you do?
Oh, you know what happened? You know Eddie at the bar at the Improv? Eddie at the bar at the Improv. And I kept saying I quit drinking. I mean, I was sitting down the end of the bar there every night drinking and going, blowing the bathroom and just, and Eddie got sick of me. He was like, somebody help this guy because he's down here begging for help. I was just going, he goes, another one, Eddie? I go, yeah, but I got to quit drinking, man. I can't quit drinking every night, And so he sent our friend Mark after me. And Mark had quit drinking himself. And Mark had a place to take me. And those people changed my life.
Did you
They had a way
backslide at all? Did you go out at all, or did you stay sober from your first attempt?
No, I got about 44 days, and I went out. I went on the road, and I insisted on hanging out with the people I used to hang out with.
Right.
And I didn't work well that way. And first night out on the road, I went out again, and it was like it was worse than before. It was terrible. And came back, and so since May 11th, 85, I haven't had anything.
Congrats, that's amazing. Thank you for paving the way. Okay, so now let's talk career. So that's how you started getting drunk. How'd you start doing comedy? When did you realize you were funny?
I was always funny, but I didn't realize that any idea I could make money out of it. I was always making people laugh. Friends of mine told me later, when I turned pro, that you were making us laugh in grade school, and you were always, because it was my house. I noticed that if my dad was laughing, he wasn't swinging his fists. And my mom was depressed a lot, and she needed cheering up. So I was sort of, trying to make her laugh, make my mom laugh and my dad laugh. And other people, it was a great defense mechanism for me. I could hide behind a lot of stuff. I could hide behind it. I could really hide behind it. It was a great shield for me because I was very lost. And so,
was there something else you wanted to be when you were?
Yeah, I was going to be a lawyer. I was in law school.
I know this about you.
And then a friend of mine, Howard Vine, Howard thought I was funny. I thought I was funny. We need another opinion. So he took me to this coffee house. He took me to a coffee house to do stand-up comedy in 1977, in January of 1977. And I can still remember us walking through the snow. I had a plan. I didn't really, I'd worked up 5 minutes or so of something, to do. And I wrote a joke that actually got a little bit of reaction. That was enough, like just a little. I remember Jerry Seinfeld once talking about his first time on stage. It's the same thing. Like one guy at one point went, huh, that's it. That was all. That was it. We sort of went, huh, oh yeah, not really funny. Nobody joined him. You know what I mean? But
do you remember the first joke you wrote?
Yeah. I said it is funny because you know how to write a joke even though you don't know how to write. But this is my joke. I said you can always tell who's going to a wrestling match just by the introduction. In professional wrestling, will be in the far corner, wearing the orange trunks from Hackensack, New Jersey, 187 pounds, Ed Arnold. His opponent from parts unknown, weighing 487 pounds, wearing a bumper from a 1955 Buick on his head, Haystacks Calhoun. Same thing in high school wrestling. It's the same thing. In the 130-pound weight class, from Oak Crest Regional High School, two-time New Jersey State champion, two-time Christmas tournament champion, undefeated senior captain Bob Siraki. His opponent from Pennsylvania High School, former student council treasurer. That's it. That got one guy going, huh, like that. But Vicki, because I didn't know how to perform, I probably just memorized it and recited it.
Who were your heroes when you were? Who were the comics that you watched when you were a kid?
If people saw me and they go, he reminds me of Ed Norton from the Honeymooners. If they said, if they
you
if they
even
saw
have
that,
a bit of that look going on too.
if they saw that, I'd say you got it. I'd do that. I loved watching Red Skelton when I was a kid, right? I loved on the Andy and Mayberry show. I loved Ernest T. Bass.
Wow.
So these are comic people that I liked, and I liked Agar, on F Troop.
Oh right? My God.
Larry Storch, like Agar. Yes. So I love these are the people that I thought were funny. Walter Brennan and the Real McCoys, right? Gosh, do I
But
have a
all
new key?
that is very physical,
Yeah,
very.
but these are the ones that made me laugh. And then when I get into comedy, my dad had albums. You know, I love Bob Newhart's brilliant way with words and his way his mind worked. I love listening to his albums. And these are people I, just listen to them. Later, of course, I found Lenny Bruce in college. But the first comics I saw live were Robert Klein, George Carlin, Martin Mull. Martin Mull with his very dry way of going about things. These were the first ones that I saw. And how can you just then when Richard Pryor's movie came out in like 79, I think I watched it every day for a week. I went to the theater every day for a week. I had his albums when I was in law school. I listened to his albums a lot. So all the people you would think that I'd listen to, of course, I would have watched, of course,
How did you make the segue from law school to comedy?
Well, I just was, I started doing it in 77, and in Washington, D.C., there was a place called El Brookman's, which opened up. It was a bar down in Southeast and part of the bad neighborhood, but it was this little dingy country Western bar that started doing comedy. The young owner, the son of the owners, started doing comedy. So I show up, and then all these comics, Ron Zimmerman and Kevin Rooney and Bill Masters and people you probably know, Louis Black. There were a lot of people who showed up there. John Heyman. That showed up and started doing comedy there. So I met these guys, and then Garvin's, this comedy club in up on Connecticut Avenue, was the first paying comedy club on the East Coast, right, in 1979. Wow. And I started opening up for a lot of bands. I opened up for a lot of bands, like I opened up for Rick Danko, and I opened up for the Chicago, and I opened
the
up
Ramones. Didn't you open for the Ramones?
For my first paying job was the Ramones.
Wow.
First paying job. And then
it's
funny.
How are the audiences with you? If you're opening for the Ramones, what happens when a comic walks out first?
I got, I'll tell you the short version. They threw beer at me. I mean, I was on
of course they did.
30 seconds. Because I had no, look, they booed me as I was walking up on stage. They booed me before I got to the stage. I was like, you don't know I suck yet. Yeah, I suck, but you don't know that yet, So I proved it to them, and they just started throwing beer at me. I mean, it just really happened fast, and I was not going to leave because I had a bet with the owner, the double or nothing for my $50. So I'm not going to leave. So he waves them when I leave. I'm soaked with beer. I go back in the dressing room. One of the Ramones looks at me, goes, "Cool act, man." Like absolutely. So I had, we did this book, Schiff and I did this book called I Killed. And we wanted to get it reviewed by the Washington Post. The New York Times reviewed it. The Washington Post were going to they said they'll review it. And then they said they couldn't review it because the music critics said he was at that Ramones show at the Child Howl in 1978, and there was no opening act. And I said, well, that's not true because I was there. I was the opening act. And then a few months later, right, he calls back. He calls the critic and says, listen, apologize to that comic, because I was talking about that Ramones show and being no opening act there. And my wife, who was with me at that show, said, well, there was a disturbance at the front of the stage. And so that's what I was. That should have been like building my act, disturbance at the front of the stage. But some acts, look, I learned how to do it. I learned how to open up for Captain Beefheart. I mean, I opened up for Rick Danko. I learned how to do it. 500,000 people.
Okay, wait, because Rick, if you're opening for music and for a rock band, whatever, and they want that music, and you walk out there and they've got that Ramones attitude where they're going to throw things, what was your get 'em? How did you get 'em?
I had a lot of get 'em. First of all, I started writing. I'd come out. I had a fake joint hanging out of my mouth. I'd walk out right with a real fake joint, and I go, I guess, and I pass it to some of the audience right off the bat before I said a word to anybody. I said, go ahead, man, pass it around. Pass it around. Look, we can all get high on that tonight. If Jesus did it with a loaf and a fish, we can try this with a joint tonight. It was just cigarette, but wow. I did stuff grabbing right away. And I had a light up yo-yo. I had because they were, it was. I remember I opened up for the Plasmatics. Remember Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics?
Sure.
So she came out topless, and she had electrical tape over her nipples, right? Just 2 little strips of electrical tape.
Right. Oh, and
I'm opening up for them in DC. Yeah. And it was a raucous punk band, and no matter what I
Right.
did, they weren't going for it. So finally, it's like I have more ways of saying fuck you than they do. That's the whole thing, you know. I have a lot of ways, and so finally I went, listen, you assholes, the band's not coming out until 15 minutes after I come out. They're not coming out. If you shoot me dead now, right, you're just gonna watch my body decompose on stage because they're not coming out any sooner. You get it? And you bunch of fucking idiots. And they were like, they went, ah. And then of course, as soon as that was over, one of the guys goes, let's shoot him. You know what I mean? Like, right. But I got him enough. You know, I win. If I held the stage back then, I won. But I came off that stage that night, right? And Wendy O. Williams was getting ready to go on, and she hands me a beer. She goes, I'll show those fuckers. Don't worry, I'll get them. She goes out. She had a gun. She had a real gun. Part of their act was they chainsaw the television in half, right? She's out there topless, right? She comes out and she shoots the gun into the ceiling. And I thought, and plaster comes down, right? Like plaster. I thought, oh, that's a good magic act, right? They must have rigged it so that when she shot the blank,
Right.
then somebody shot plaster from the top of the ceiling, right? So I turned to one of the stage and I go, that's a good magic act. He says, ain't no fucking magic act. So she put a real bullet in there tonight. She put a fucking shot in it.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it was
So you started, all right, so you're still in law school and you're starting to do stand-up, or you leave law school?
and I'm doing it more and more. I'm doing it more and more. I'm getting into it more and more. I'm being seduced by the laughter. Look, what the laughter did for me was like a drug. When we talk about drugs, it connected me with people in a way I never felt connected off stage. I always felt outside everybody. Even with my best friends, I'd come up and I feel like they all know something that I don't know. They all are connected in the way that I can't get connected. But when I was on stage making a room full of people laugh, I felt differently about people and I felt differently about myself. There was no other thing I ever did that made me more in the moment, forgetting all my past and not worrying about the future. There was nothing that put me more in the moment like doing stand-up comedy. And so that's a thing, I'm not going to get that anywhere else. And law, as much as I love the idea of the law, and I did some good things when I was working in the law, you know, I mean, just in law school, I was good at it, but I didn't care anymore. I just wanted that drug. I wanted that feeling of being free up there, truly free. I didn't go on stage high. I mean, I did. I messed up, you know, never intentionally, never was like, I got to get high to go on. I never got that took shot to go in, took a couple of shots to do it, you know, no. I wanted to be straight up there because that's the only way it worked for me.
Right.
It worked that way. And when I was straight up there, and I was like, I am really free, even during my drug and all. Now, during my you know, the early 80s drugging and drinking,
Right.
I'd start drinking on stage about it. And back then they let you do long shows. There were no drunk driving laws, right? So if I'm up on stage an hour and a half, 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours, about an hour and a half in, I cracked my first beer, you know, right? I mean, but it was something that seduced me so fast. Once I started getting laughs and I got good at it in DC, right? When I went to New York, I had a head of steam. I felt like I was pretty good.
So let's talk about how this started to blossom for you, because I mean, I don't, 11 appearances with Johnny Carson, something like that, Letterman, Leno, what later, what, and you were on television. I mean, you were on Roseanne, you were on, what's the other one you were on? You were on another one. And you were working with Jeff Foxworthy, you were doing all of this stuff. How did the success start to happen for you?
When I got to New York, then I met, you know, there were guys in DC who had straight jobs and they were doing it as a lark and funny. And there were a couple of guys who obviously I mentioned them. They all became lifers, you know, like people who stood all the way. Mm-hmm. I got to New York. There were 100 comics up there who were obsessed as I was. Right. And then I started getting lessons. I remember working a gig with Jerry Seinfeld. I'll mention him again, but you know, it was one of those gigs in Jersey where, you know, I knew I was in a bar in Jersey. I knew what I had to do to get over. You know, I was not going to get fancy. I was going to set the mower low and cut some grass. You know, right?
So does that mean like being blue and all that?
That's right, man. That's right. It's like, you want to fuck, we'll fuck around. You know what I mean? We'll bang heads a little bit. And, you know, like I said, I have a million other ways of saying you're an asshole than you have saying I'm an asshole. You know what I mean? And get dirty. And Jerry comes out and he went on first and he was the more established act, right?
Right.
And Jerry Stanley said, let Jerry will go first. And there was another act, and then Jerry and me. And I was like, no, he should be closing. And Jerry goes up and it's clean, man, clean. He's not getting them like I know they could be gotten, but he doesn't care because he's not working just that show that night.
Right.
He's thinking of doing this material in Tonight Show. He's honing this stuff to take the TV. So he's not cussing. He's not doing what he can do, like, spark it up a little bit with a couple of fucks and shits and whatever, and make it fly that night. Right. So I go out and I do that. I do what I got to do, like it's a rock crowd. And we're driving back, and Jerry laid it out for me. He said, look, why are you working like that? You're a funny guy, but if you work blue, when you take those curse words out, it'll mess up the timing of your joke when you take it on television. It was the first time I was like, oh, this guy, he's really thinking this through. Wow. These guys are thinking about it. I'm like, just the mechanics. I'm just wanting the mechanics of how to get these people laughing for me right now. He's got a plan. He's got theory. He's thinking of how everything works. It was there were all these guys up there like that. There were so many great comics up in New York. I can name them, but I Rick Overton and Glenn Hirsch and Gilbert Gottfried, Larry Miller. See, I'm going to start forgetting them because then, of course, Carl Liefer was great, and Paul Reiser, and there was Ronnie Shakes, Kelly Rogers, and Bill Maher. There were Belzer ruled Catch a Rising Star, right? Joe Bolster. There was so many, Dennis Wolpert. There were so many good comics. It's ridiculous, and they were all as hungry as I was. I mean, I'd do 5-6 sets a night if I could do it. I'd go all over town, just go on stage every time because it's all stage time, and every time you try something new.
So you've already cut and run on law school, or are you still doing that?
Oh yeah. 79, I was like, I told my parents I said, I'm not going to be a lawyer, which, my dad, he looked like, Lee Harvey Oswald shot by Ruby. He was gut shot. And my mom, who was the quiet one, always, whatever, she just screamed, are you crazy? And I said, I got to go. And I went, and I didn't talk to him much for a while, I was just up there doing it, trying to get by, make a living up there. And
I would imagine getting on the Tonight Show was a great forgiver of not being a lawyer.
Well, it took me about 5 times before my dad finally came around. I was on a show with Don Rickles, who was his favorite comic, or one of his favorite comics. And I made Johnny and Don Rickles laugh. And then my dad called me up the next day. He'd never talked me after any Tonight Show, any Letterman or anything, and said, you're really good at this. You made Johnny Carson and Don Rickles laugh, I mean, that was a big off my back, but
wow.
But before it didn't matter. Before that didn't matter. I had to do this. I had to do this.
Did it take you a while? How did it take you a while? Did you have to do other jobs to make a living at the beginning?
I had one other. I had a job up there. I was broke, and I was late for my rent. So it was down in the down in the village, East Village, and
yeah.
New York was starting to kind of feel like something was happening, right? Like they were rehabbing apartments. And the manager of my apartment building said, hey, can you do carpentry work? And I lied, I said, yeah. He said, well, it's like, $10 an hour under the table. And I go over to this job, and
right.
Guys, it's redoing apartments, old abandoned apartment buildings were being redone. It took these guys 5 minutes to realize that I didn't know anything about anything carpentry, but that I was an okay guy, and I go out and ran errands for them, go get them cigarettes, go get them food, go get them beer, make them laugh, keep things going, clean up after them. So the next day, the guy goes, yeah, you're not a carpenter, but you can clean up, right? I said, yeah, my family on this planet, manual labor kept my family on this planet for a long time. And so he sent me over to this job. He said, go over to this job, meet these guys outside this building. You're going to clean out this building. So I go over there, and there's like 4 young Italian guys.
Yeah.
Right, completely, right out of Mean Streets. Scorsese cast this whole quadrant. And I'm outside. I come outside and say, they go, you're okay, good, man, good. And they're passing around a bottle of, pint. They're passing around pint. Everybody's taking a couple of hits. And we go in, and cleaning out meant we were throwing squatters out of buildings. There were squatters all over the East Village. And these guys were buying buildings and they were rehabbing. So you had to throw the squatters out. So we go in there, we pound on doors. You got to get your stuff, get out of here. Or we're going to throw you out. And we were throwing things out of windows, TV sets, whatever. We were just throwing stuff out of windows and throwing people out. And that was cleaning out the buildings, really. It wasn't like going and sweeping up a floor. We were throwing people out. And I did that with these guys for about
throw people out of the building.
$5 an hour under the table, $5 cash. And I was doing that all day, and then I'd go catch a quick nap at home, and then I head to the club so I could be there. Whenever the show started at 8 o'clock, I had to be there. I had to sit at a bar and wait, like a vulture, vulture, wait for somebody not to show up. So I was burning both ends of the candle, but eventually, I started making money, and then I didn't have to do that.
How did it turn for you, Rich? How did it turn so that you were making a living?
Well, at first, I was still going back to DC to make money and all. And then the club Garvin's, Harry fell out with the woman who was booking the club, Sandy Kalinek. They fell out. They had an argument. So Harry calls him and says, listen, will you book Garvin's down? Book the club for me. I'll give you $300 a month. And I go, $300 a month? My rent is $115.
Wow.
$300 and I'm made.
Wow.
So I did that, and that's that. But I couldn't do that for, I think I did it for about 5-6 months, right? You know what I mean?
Are you able to put yourself into the show?
Yeah, no, I only came down there once during, before. I didn't book myself then because I had already been down there. I was from there. I used to be the MC at the club.
Right.
So, but the main problem was it was forcing me to judge comics. And I didn't feel worthy to judge them. I was just trying to make my way in the scene itself. And now I'm like, guys, ones are easy. Send Kelly Rogers back again. That's easy. Send Rick Overton back. That's easy. But there are guys coming up, like the guys from Long Island who I like them and all, Jackie Martling. I'm like, hey, we want to go down there. And I'm like, this is not this is not a Jersey bar club, And
right.
So I had to make some choices and I didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel good doing it. So Jeff Penn was a young agent hanging down in DC, and I gave him that job. He became a very good producer of comedy shows. And he was that was his thing, being an agent and a producer. Mm-hmm. So I got out of that, and then I was making money. But the clubs started opening up, like 1980. Comic Strip in Fort Lauderdale. We went down there. I went down there to do a gig with Carol and all. Kelly Rogers goes, we're on the phone. The condo had a phone, right? That's how early this was. Condo had a telephone in it. He goes, come over here. He's holding the thing to his chest. He goes, whatever this guy asked you, tell him you can do it. So I get on the phone. I go, hello. He goes, listen, I need a comic up here in Ottawa next week. Can you do 2 45-minute shows, separate shows, 2 45 minutes? You need an hour and a half show. And I go, yeah, I can do it. I hang up. I go, I got a half hour if they laugh at everything. That's all I got. He goes, go, write, start writing. And I did. I grew, Wow. I wrote like crazy. And when I got up there, my plan was be funny the first show, as funny as I could be, all my good stuff in the first show, because if they think I'm funny, it'd be easier to make them laugh in the second show. And I was writing like crazy. And then I went from there to Montreal, the next week in Montreal, the next week in Toronto, and all of a sudden these clubs are opening everywhere. And when I'm making $700 a weekend and my rent's $110, I'm doing okay.
Life's good. So how did you segue over to television? How'd you get your first TV gig?
First one was Evening at the Improv. That was a cast out of the Improv in New York and LA. Then I got out there and started doing Merv Griffins and that sort of thing. And then Tonight Show in '84.
How'd you get the Tonight Show?
I was living in LA. And remember Sam Kinison, Screaming Sam?
He was my favorite.
So him and I were buddies. And I said, I'm getting out of LA. '84 is the Olympics. And I said, this is going to be a mess. This place is going to be a mess. I could always see it. They were like, tourists were going to be, they're going to be in the club and they couldn't speak English. And it was traffic was going to be even worse than usual. I said, I'm going to New York. I'm going to spend the summer in New York. He said, I've never been to New York. I want to go. I said, let's go. So we went to New York. And Sam loved it and they loved him. And I'm on stage at the Improv one night. And Jim McCulley, who was the booker of the Tonight Show, I never bothered him, never said a word to him, because I got that advice when I first got out there. I got good advice from people. People who, like Jay Leno would say, don't bug my colleague. Don't bug him. He'll find you. Believe me, he'll find you. He'll be watching you. Don't bug him. Guys bugging, and they season too early and they're not ready. He'll know when you're ready. And so at 84, he comes to New York. He got out of LA too, because he's like, it was a mess, like I thought. And he shows up there at the Improv, and then I walk off stage. He walks up to me and says, "You're ready to do Tonight Show. I want to give you a date in 2 weeks." And then we go out to a bar, and we pull all the jokes that he saw me do out, and I give him a couple others, and we stitch together, like this weird stitching together of a 5-minute bit, 5-minute punk. You pull a joke from this bit, a joke from that section, and you stitch them all together with weird segues,
I was going to say, that's got to be crazy. Yeah.
That's the weird part, you see that segues, you end up with a water skiing joke, and you go, I got water skiing, I got my hair wet, and that reminds me, I was getting my hair cut, so you got water skiing, the haircut, So, but that was it. That was my first time, August '84.
And how did it go? Did Johnny give you
I got there, as Rodney says, give me one of these, right? Give me one of these. That's all I want. I want one of these. I'm okay. You're okay, Johnny. Johnny said you're okay. You're okay. Yeah,
that's a great Rodney.
Yeah, I think every white guy in America can do Rodney after a certain age, Rodney. I loved Rodney. Everybody loved Rodney.
So, okay, so you get Johnny, you get a lot of, you were doing a lot of television.
Yeah. I got sober. When I got sober, everything went into another gear. I got TV deals, those things were sweet.
Wait, let's stop here and stop here for a second. Were you afraid at all when you got sober that you wouldn't be funny anymore?
My God, yeah. Oh yeah, I thought it was over. I said, I don't know if I can go back to law school. I thought everything was over. I hadn't written a joke. I hadn't written a new joke. Through drinking and drugging, I'd lost my sense of humor. It dried up. And the first few months of sobriety, and then when I started running, and one day I was out running, and like for comic jokes, you get the setup, premise sometimes, and you get the punchline later.
Right.
You got to punch. This is a good punchline. I got to build a setup to go to it. This thing landed one piece in front of me. I was running, and it just landed in front of me. I said, I don't care how much you love each other. Could be those moments in any relationship where 1 minute you look at the other person, you think to yourself, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And your next thought could be, how can I fake my death? And that was like, it broke. That was like 1985. And I went,
I remember that.
Right. It broke. And I started doing a lot of material that was different for me. And Macaulay saw me and said, your whole attitude has changed. Your whole energy has changed. Your whole, because
you have to back up before you get to this part, because didn't you do a set on the Tonight Show that Johnny didn't like before?
Yeah.
Tell that story.
I was drinking and drugging with Sam a lot.
Yeah.
And so 84, they brought me right back. They go, you come back in 2 months to do your next one. Right.
Wow.
So the first one, I managed to stop drinking and drugging 3-4 days before the show, which was good for me.
Yeah.
The second one, I managed to not do cocaine the night before I did the show, but I was drinking.
Yeah.
That was as best I could do. I remember. That's the best I can remember. I might not have even done that. But I show up that day, in my head, Sam had gotten in my head. He said, you got to do something edgier. This is not edgy enough for you, man. You're edgier. You got this new bit had a whole new bit about Jesus talking to his agent. We saw this band together called Stryper, which is a Christian rock band. And the lead singer comes out and he says, Jesus was the first rock and roller. And so I turned to Sam and I said, they just put the Son of God in showbiz. He must have had an agent. Jesus talking to his agent. You got to get me out of the hills and valleys. I'm dying out there. Book me to the temple. The temple, that's where the money is. You young kids, you forget. First of all, I had you booked Open Messiah night a year ago. You walk in to the money changers table, you knock it over. I can't get you booked back in the temple. No way. No way. You get out there and you do some things. You make a name for yourself. The walking on the water is good. And the water, the wine, that's nice. Bring them back for the dead. But you got to build something. Moses, 40 years in the desert to make his name. 40 years. He took 40 years and he made a good name, solid name in the business. You got to work a little harder. I work harder. All right, all right, all right. Nail me to a cross. You got something there. That's a closer. You can close with that. Nail you to a cross. I like it. So I go into Macaulay thinking I'm going to talk him into this bit, right? And he goes, you can't do that on a Tonight Show.
Wow.
But I was ready with another idea. I said, well, I want to do this thing about, can't remember the guy's name, Barney something. I want to say Barney Frank, but I wasn't Barney Frank. Might have been Barney Frank, Barney somebody, the guy who had the first artificial heart. He just had the first artificial heart implanted, right? And I had some jokes about that. I said, he said, oh, he'll live, it will affect his life somewhat. He's got an 800-pound machine next to him he's tied to, right? It's got to at least affect his bowling night. He's got guys pushing it down the lane with him. Hurry up, oh, come on. I did all these heart attack jokes, and I did jokes about the paddle, the defibrillators. And I talked Macaulay and they let me use those as my closer instead of what we had agreed with a month before. And I come off stage the first time, it's like, stand over here, Johnny wants to see you, come get a picture with Johnny. I come off the stage the second time, Macaulay grabs me, hands a beer, drags me to my dressing room, pushes me in my dressing room and says, don't come out, don't answer the door until I come back, and shuts the door. I'm like, got a beer going, oh, I was aware enough that something was wrong. They went up and they had a meeting after the show. Johnny hated my heart attack. Johnny was a 4-pack-a-day cigarette smoker.
Right.
He had fear of heart attack, and I'm doing all these heart attack jokes. Didn't like it. Hated it.
Barney Clark, Tony says.
Barney Clark, thank you. Barney Frank was the congressman. So they banned me for. He says, "Look, I'm sorry, man. I can't get you back on the show. And then when he saw me sober, like a year later, so different. He said, "Look, it was my fault for approving that material. I approved it, so it was really my fault. I'm going to go to bat for you and try to get you back on the show. You're very different. I think Johnny will like what you're doing now." And they brought me back, and I did like 10, 12 more, whatever it was. I did more.
So now when that happens, when you get banned from the Tonight Show, and then, so Johnny knew you were coming back, obviously.
He told, yeah.
So what happened? What was his reaction to you the time when you came back?
When I came back, the third time I came back, I went to panel. I went right, when I finished, I read a great set, and he called me over to panel. Look, when I was drinking, the difference was I was so out of my mind and everything. There was a movie they were making out of the book, A Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if you remember that book.
Sure.
Right? 80s, early 80s. They're going to do a movie about it. I got an audition. So I sit up drinking and drugging. I don't like the script. I don't think the script, and this is in my mind, doesn't match the book. So I'm going to rewrite the script and help them by rewriting the script. Right? They used to send you the whole script back then, not just some sides.
Right.
So I'm rewriting it, changing the jokes, putting everything. This will be fantastic. My lines all change, everything. I come in to read and I go, listen, I've helped you guys out here. I just want to tell you, here, I've rewritten a script for you, and let's go with this. And they're like, thank you, goodbye. And my agent called me. I got a message on my machine. But what the fuck are you doing? You're fired. I got fired by that agent because I was out of my mind.
Wow. So
when I got sober, that changed. Everything changed.
How did you segue from writing for yourself and your stand-up to then becoming a TV writer? How did that happen?
So I did 5 pilots, 5 development deals. They only had 4 networks. I did 1 of them twice.
Wait, what's the first thing? How do you get that first pilot gig?
They saw me performing somewhere. Some executives saw me performing. This is when Cosby was hot. The show, they're starting looking for stand-ups everywhere. They're looking for stand-ups. Myself, and of course guys whose shows came on. Roseanne had a show. They're looking for the next sitcom star out of stand-up. So they're looking at stand-up. So I got seen there. I got seen up at the Montreal Comedy Festival. I got seen. There were places where you're being seen, and they said a development deal, which was 6 figures. They pay you 6 figures to do nothing, while they wrote a show for you, which meant I could still go do everything else I wanted to do, all the stand-up I wanted to do, and then go shoot.
Did you have a writing partner? Did they assign you somebody?
No, they were you. It's a very difficult thing. You go and you meet somebody and you have to decide whether to marry them or not in one lunch. Don't give you like 3 meetings, 3 different writers. Don't say that you meet this one, meet with this one, meet that one. You know, the network decides. So you're like dating, and you're going to decide. It's like the dating game, but you're getting married. You know, you're getting married, and so you just do the best you can with it. I had 5, didn't go, I got a job down in Charleston, South Carolina. I got a kid now, a new kid. It's like 1992 or something. And I got a kid, and this new comedy club was in a sports bar across from this hockey rink arena, and the Eagles were playing their Hell Freezes Over tour. They were in there, and I'm in the comedy club in a sports bar across the street. Big, nice sports bar, big, nice room for comedy. Up the stairs. They had 300-400 people packed. It was great. I get heckled by this guy, and this guy's a good heckler. He's good, man. He knows, he's sharp. He's funny. He's not disruptive. We have volleys back and forth where we're both getting laughs, and he backs off, and then I do a run of material, and I'd go. We got a roll going. I go over to the piano and I'd pick up a glass of water. And I'd look out there, and here he comes back, and then we bang, 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 bang. End of the show, I come off big. Standing ovation, fantastic show. This guy was unbelievable. It was like a team. And the manager comes over and says, "You know who that was?" I said, "No." He said, "It's Sean Penn. Sean Penn's here, and he wants to hang out with you."
That. Wow.
Sean Penn I can't remember what movie he was doing. Might have been Dead Man Walking. I don't know what year, like 92, around there. I don't know what he was doing in South Carolina, but he's there. So we go hang out in this
Wait, is he loaded when he's doing this with you?
He was doing whatever he was doing whatever he was doing. I don't know what he was doing.
Because I can't imagine him sober doing that, but okay.
I didn't test him. But I would just say this. We stayed up all night. I was drinking Coca-Colas, right? And that's it. And Sean was doing whatever Sean was doing.
Okay.
And at the end of the night, 5 in the morning, I go, "I'm done. I'm going to go get some breakfast at Waffle House and go to sleep. I'm done, man. I got to go." So, before we go, I want to say something to you. And I think he's going to go, "We need to do a movie together, you and I. We need to do something, man."
Yeah.
He goes, "You got to move to LA." And I go, "I've lived in LA for 10 years. I thought he knew who I was." He thought he just ran across a funny guy in South Carolina. And I realized, I went back to my hotel, I go, "I'm not making a dent in LA. Nobody knows who I am." So I got a kid, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but I can't go on the road here and have my kids like in a storage locker in LA. So a friend of mine says, "Look, everybody likes your writing, man. They think you're a good writer. People think, why don't you write for sitcoms?" And it never occurred to me because I was always trying to be the person out front.
Right.
So
the pilots you were writing for yourself to launch yourself.
No. These were written by other people. Other people wrote these pilots. I would rewrite with them, you know. I would try to punch up with them, you know, to help them out in any way I could. But they were writers. They were writers. Okay. I was not a writer. Okay. So I came back, and it was February or something. You know, the season was nearly over, or maybe a couple months before the season was over. But nobody was looking to hire writers at the time. They had staffs, and they were in the second, you know, half of the season. But my friend said, "Look, call up everybody you know who has a show and tell them, look, you want to be considered as a writer next year. You'll write a you know, a spec script." And so I called up Seinfeld, and I called up Tim Allen, and I called up Roseanne. And Roseanne called me back that night and said, "You want a job? Show up tomorrow at the studio. You got a job. I love you." And I showed up, and I started writing for.
Did you know Roseanne from stand-up?
Yeah, I knew her from stand-up. Yeah. I mean, look, Roseanne came to town. When she blew into town, I think I might have met her first up in Denver. I can't really remember for sure. But I remember meeting her over at the Comedy Store. When she came in, she was a force. She was an absolute, there was nothing like her, man. I mean, nothing like what she was doing. And she was so strong and so like just funny, flat out killer funny.
That first Rodney Dangerfield Young Comedian special, it was Sam, it was Roseanne, Bob Nelson. I was in the Laughter Company with him just before that, but she was ridiculous.
Now, there's a guy, when I talk about Red Skelton, there was the modern Red Skelton right there was Bob Nelson. He was the modern Red Skelton. I mean, if anything came close to what Red Skelton was. I mean, his performance skills and the scenes that he created. I think my favorite might have been The Duck Hunter, but they had so many great things there. But that, you're right, Sam and her, you know, I mean, they wanted Sam and her to be Married with Children at first. They wanted to cast them as the leads in Married with Children.
No kidding.
Yeah, I got it on that, you know, so.
So let's talk about that. How did you get Married with Children?
Because I was on a roll, I was hot, and everybody was looking for, you know, what I could do. And I'd gone to, you know, network where you're down to 3 actors, right? They go to network when the producers, right. You met the producer, you've auditioned a series of rounds to get to the finals, and now they bring in the network people and they're going to make a decision on the cast. So I got the network on Cheers when they replaced the coach. It was me, Woody Harrelson, and a guy named I can't remember his name now, but Timothy Threadgill, who, if you ever see the documentary Grizzly Man, he's the star of this documentary, gets eaten by a grizzly bear. So the 3 of us, there were 3 blondes. I was the East Coast blonde, Woody was the Midwest blonde, dumb blondes, right? And this guy Threadgill was the West Coast blonde, right? He was a surfer kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So obviously they made the choice correctly with Woody. And then the next thing I auditioned for was Married with Children. Now, there was no network. It's not even, the show is a brand new show on a brand new network that hadn't even started yet. But we're doing it. We get down to the 3 of us, the network again, and we're sitting in the hallway over at the Paramount, I think it was, over on Gower. And the 2 producers, Michael Moy and Ron Levitt, the writers, producers, creators, come walking down the hallway. The actor sitting across from me jumps up. He goes, Michael! And they hug. The guy's got his luggage here. Michael's like, don't worry, get your luggage in the car. My wife's got your room made up. You're gonna love LA. I'm like, well, this is a done deal. What am I even here, right? The other actor, he's like, just like, you know, he's like the same as I feel. So I get up to leave. I stand up going, I'm getting out of here. Right then, the assistant comes out and she goes, Ritch, you're first, come on. So I go back there. I don't care. There's no better way to go in an audition. I don't care.
Right.
I'm mocking everything. I'm mocking the show. I'm mocking the network that doesn't exist. I'm mocking everything, making fun of everything. The room, where I'm at. And so I had the best audition of my life.
Wow.
What I didn't know was when I won the role, because the network, see, Ron Levitt told me later, when you left, Michael Moy, after the 3 of us all finished, he goes, this guy, he's a New York trained actor, his buddy, he wanted his buddy to have it, right?
Right.
The network's like, no, give it to the funny guy. This is a funny role. It's a cutter role. You know, you're playing Al Bundy's friend, the Lothario, the shoe salesman, you know, always chasing chicks. Give it to this guy. Well, my role was dead as soon as I got it because Michael Moy hated it, hated me, hated the role. He just wanted to kill it. So I did 7 episodes, and you know, you find out you don't got your job anymore in Hollywood, right? So every Friday I'd get a script, and I'd work on it on the weekend with my acting coach, and then Monday we go table read, start the week ready to shoot.
Right.
Done this 7 times in a row. The 8th week, I don't get my script delivered on Friday. I call my agent, I go, hey, they didn't deliver my script. There must be a place. Yeah, there's a problem with delivery. I'll call you right back. Calls right back, goes, got bad news. Got bad news. You're fired. That's how you find out. Yeah.
Ouch. All right.
Yeah.
So, you know, I literally, I don't even know how long we've been talking for 2 hours. I could talk to you for 2 more, but before we go, I want a couple stories. One is you wrote this book, I Killed, and with Mark Schiff, right? And what's a favorite story from that? Tell us a little bit about I Killed.
Wow, favorite story from it. I haven't seen that book in so long. So we were writing on Blue Collar TV, and it was Bill Engvall and Ron White and Larry the Cable Guy and Jeff Foxworthy and Blaine Capatch and myself. Like, now I'm going to mess up here. There's a couple other stand-ups who are writers. We're all a lot of stand-ups there. So one day in the writing room, we start telling stories, war stories, road stories. And everybody's laughing. And people are coming from down the hall. There's so much laughter in this room. People are coming. Next thing I know, I look up, the whole room's packed. And this young woman writer named Emily Cutler goes, that's a book. You should write a book, which had been in my mind, these stories, right? We always tell these stories.
Right.
So, okay, let's put together a book. And so when I go to Mark Schiff, because I figure this is I'm writing on this show. It's a lot of work to put all these stories together. I go to Mark, and you want to do it? He said, yeah. So we did it. You know, we had people who contact everybody could, transcribing almost everybody. It's a very difficult thing to do. You know?
Absolutely.
And we made some mistakes. We put a lot of time and effort. We had to pay people to type the tapes because everybody, guys at comics, just tell us on the phone. I'm like, you know, so glad we did it. But somebody was, when you gonna do that again? I said, never again. Couldn't do that again. Man.
Did you have like a favorite get? I mean, was there like a dream get for that? I mean, I know it's mostly your friends and stuff, but was there anybody that was a surprise?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it was like everybody was, you know, there's Seinfeld. I love the Seinfeld story, you know. You know, Jerry's working to Catch a Rising Star. I gotta mention a lot of Jerry today. I don't know why, but maybe Larry Miller's story. Larry Miller.
I love Larry.
You love Larry. Since he's Jerry's friend, it comes right to mind, right? So Larry gave us a story where he was working with Todd Glass, was a young comic who kind of booked Larry. They're going from Philly to a Jersey, like a prom show, like he's going to perform at a prom in Jersey, high school prom. So Larry gets out there and he's got this joke. He says, you know, I'm not going to do the joke correctly, maybe, but the joke basically is, you know, it's strange when you go back to high school, right? Because everything you did that was bad and wrong. Now it's just kind of a joke. Hey, good to see you again, Mr. Miller. Remember when we set you on fire? Right? Isn't that funny? Larry does this joke, which has gotten him laughs all the time.
Right.
He does not know that the week before, a beloved teacher by the name of Mr. Miller had died in a fire.
Oh my God.
They think he did it on purpose. They think Larry has done this on purpose, you know, insult them, you know, in the ultimate display of bad taste. So Todd, they're angrily, a mob is angrily coming after Larry, right? And Todd and him are trying to fend them off and get out to their car and make their escape, which they barely do. They barely. A mob of gym teachers and coaches and students and parents.
Oh my God. I just saw Larry last night. I've been watching old Mad About Yous to go to sleep at night on my phone. And Larry played like Franz, like some producer on Mad About You.
He's always a great comedian and such a good actor. I mean, he's just, you know, Best in Show, when he played the suicide counselor in Best in Show, he's hilarious.
It doesn't get, all right. So last thing, so Kicking Through the Hole. So what's tell us about it?
Kicking Through the Ashes is
the Ashes. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh I tried to cover every aspect. That's all right, Vicki. It's all right. Don't worry. It's been a long night.
I don't even know my kids' birthdays, let alone the name of your.
You had to be the tech operator for the show for the first half hour to get everything to work. I was amazed. I was watching. This is like watching this woman flip the hood of the car. She's inside there working on the carburetor. It was great. So this book, I just wanted to write up my journey, you know, just through the 80s, like getting into comedy like I did in 77 and moving to New York, all this.
Before you go there, Kicking Through the Ashes. Why Ashes?
Like, you know, when a house burns down, they go, oh, their house burned down. You see somebody in there kicking through the ashes of the house, trying to find something of value. And at the time when I wrote it, I thought that's the kind of metaphor for me in my career. I'm trying to find something of value to what all happened. And if I can find some value here. And so I try to cover every aspect of stand-up. I have a story about joke thievery. I have a story about, you know.
All right, no. You got to stop there. You got to give us a joke thievery story. I'm sorry.
Short of it is, I'm in Atlanta, and I got a system where, you know, I'm headlining, so I'd watch the opening acts the beginning week, maybe the first one or two shows, to see what they were doing in their acts, so I could do other material. I never told them you can't do that joke because I have a joke like that. My job as a headliner is have enough jokes to run around any obstacles they put up there. So I would just watch what the comics were doing and then say, okay, I'll drop this joke because that joke's kind of like theirs and I won't do this. And that's it. But I knew what, so then I just put my headphones on and listen to music and not really pay attention to what the comics are doing because this way I handle my nervous energy.
Right.
Sunday night, the last night, for whatever reason, I want to see where the comic is in his act. I guess I was distracted talking to somebody. So I want to see where the middle act is in the act. I take my headphones off just in time to hear him do one of my jokes, word for word, one of my jokes. I go, oh, he just did one of my jokes. And then, wait a minute, he did another one of my jokks. Then, wait a minute, he's doing the whole bit. He's doing the whole, he's done, 4 or 5 jokes. Then a couple minutes later, he does another one of my jokes. And so he's doing all, and so I run backstage. There was a little backstage area at the Punchline Atlanta, just off to the side. And it was just a place like a holding pen where the comics would come in and come out, just up there. You stand there waiting to be introduced.
Right.
Nothing big. And I come in there, and the MC, who when I put this on Facebook, he came forward and said, I was there that night. He sees me come in, he goes, I know. I go, what's he doing? He goes, I don't know. He's doing your act. I said, he's doing bits after bits. He's doing a lot of stuff. Finally, he comes off, big ovation comes off. He comes in there. He is shocked to see me. I grab him. I'm like, what the fuck? But I know I can't go too crazy because I can't get in a fight because I got to go out and perform for this audience, right? And that will not work. And I just go, what are you doing? And I said, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I forgot you were still here. He's like, he forgot I was there. He's like, I thought you were out of town and I could start doing your act. So
oh my God.
that gets really bad because he leaves. That guy goes, the comic goes out, he introduced me. I can't go out and go, hey, that guy just did a bunch of my stuff. You can't do that. You got to perform. So I'm trying to do crowd work. I'm trying to play with them because I really don't want to go into my act. But I go into my act, and every once in a while I'd hit a landmine. I'd step on one of my own jokes, and I do the joke, and the audience would be like going, "That other guy did that joke." I go, "I know. I'm just testing to see if you were paying attention." I got to try every time. I got to try to play out of it, And so when I come off stage, the guy was gone. He was gone. He jumped in his car and drove back to Florida. He was from Florida. I got the guy's name written down somewhere. It doesn't matter. He never went anywhere. It's just a story of joke thievery. But I had a bunch of essay before I tell that story in the book to show what I thought about thievery. You can't fight it. I think it was Larry David said that, you just got to keep writing. You got to outright them. You can't, they're going to steal. You can't do anything about that. And, the more I write, it seems like it doesn't bother me because I'm just moving on anyway. They're going to steal jokes. They're going to steal even premises that they've never seen before. There had to be one comic that did the first CVS receipt is 6 foot long joke that noticed how long the receipts were, right? There had to be one comic that noticed that first. Then everybody goes, oh, the audience is laughing at that. They know how long the receipts are too. Now I can do a version of that. It's not just direct steals. There's cracking the code. Some comic cracks the code, and then the other comics come in and go, okay, he's cracked the code. I can now do that. So I wrote a whole bunch. That's one chapter. Then I do a chapter on heckling. Then a chapter, so it's all. And then I do
something that you were comfortable with. Clearly,
because I grew up with it. To me, it was just when I grew up with, we would just go back and forth, busting each other's balls in New Jersey. That's what I grew up with. My friends and I, we didn't make fun of each other. That means you didn't care about each other. That's how we showed affection, right? That's how twisted we are. But the heckling, sometimes the audience just seeing if you're there and present that night. They want to see whether you're there or you're on remote control. And sometimes they want to see if you're qualified to fly the airplane. I mean, you are up there with a microphone, all the power in the world then that night. They want to see whether you're qualified to be there. They're just testing a little bit. And as soon as you show them that you got the, ability to dance with them, then they back off. And sometimes they're drunk and obnoxious, and sometimes they're antagonistic. But I never, they always say, clubs would always say, you have a code word where, you say that code word and we throw them out. I say, my code word is kick them the fuck out. That's my code word. I don't have, it's like I play, and then drunks you can only go so far with. You have to be, you can kick a guy all night long, and it's okay. You had to be careful. This is my day, and I don't know what it's like now. With drunken women, you had to be like, you can't treat her, a drunken, obnoxious, heckling woman, like you would a drunken, obnoxious, heckling guy. Because the audience eventually will go, you're beating her up, man, and you're a guy, and you should, what I mean? There's a different standard.
Yes, there is a difference.
And I wrote about these things in the book. I write about them, and then I write a story about the biggest story I had about heckling. So I did that with every subject I could. And then I wrote stories about Bill Hicks or Robin Williams, I wrote chapters about Jay Leno, Mike McDonald, my friend, Sam Kinison. I wrote stories about people,
And okay, I keep asking for more. Do you have one story that you can share with us of all those people you mentioned? I don't know. Pick one. Sam Kinison. How about Sam, since he's gone?
So Sam, we're hanging out and we get this gig over in UCLA. We're just doing UCLA. It's like 1985, spring of 85. Mm-hmm. And we're still drinking. I'm still drinking a drug, maybe 80, I don't know, whatever it was. We're doing UCLA. Mm-hmm. And this young comic's driving us over there. And we're driving over to UCLA. Sam says, listen, man, you got to close. I said, Sam, I'm not following you, man. It was really starting to get good. The story it was really getting, this is just an in-town, make a couple $100 drug money that night, gig over at UCLA. Go over, come back to the Comedy Store, plenty of time to do another set, improv, do a set. So he says, no, man, the kids will hate me. Trust me, they're going to hate me. And if I don't do well, it's okay. You'll close the show. But if I do so well that you can't follow me, I'll give you my money and I'll still buy the drugs for later. I said, well, I can't go wrong, right? Can't go wrong with a deal like that. That's all right. So we get out there and Sam goes up and he does his act, his whole act. That this is the phase of a marriage, right? He's doing, and they're not buying it. They're just
really,
they're not laughing. He's doing his whole bit. And then when he gets up, but he doesn't, this is what the difference is between Sam. He doesn't piss him off. He doesn't turn on the audience. He takes the beating. The worst thing you do as a middle act, right, is to piss off the audience before the headliner comes off, right? I mean, it's the worst thing you do as an opener for anybody is piss off the audience. Sam doesn't, takes his beating, comes off. I go on, I have a great set. We're partying later. Sam goes, I know college kids don't like me, man. They don't get me. They don't like me. Then he does Rodney, which comes out that summer, Rodney's show. And Sam blows up. I mean,
God. That was the Young Comedian special.
I mean, I was doing gigs opening up for Little Feet down in the South. Mm-hmm. We came out to go do a gig to the next gig, right? That Sunday morning after Saturday night, the show was on. And every guy in the band was doing Sam. They were all, I said, Sam is gone, man. He is.
I want my records back. That's when he did I Want My Records Back. Right?
All that. Yeah. So I come back to LA and I don't know, sometime later, Sam walks up to the Comedy Store and says, hey, Ritch, I just got a gig at UCLA for $15,000. You got to come see this. So I go over and watch. He kills, destroys. And I'll bet money, many in that crowd were at that gig we did the spring before.
Wow.
But something changed. Sam changed just a little bit. The atmosphere in the country, the zeitgeist did change a little.
What was the time frame between the two?
Probably 6 months, 8 months, maybe 9 months. Something like that.
Wow.
He hit that desert bit, of the We Are the World, pack up your bags. We're going to get some U-Hauls and move you out of here because you live in a desert and nothing grows in a desert. We got deserts. We don't live there. You know why? Because of deserts, sand, nothing grows. So
move where the food is. Wasn't that move where the food is? Yeah.
That's it. Move where the food is. That's it. So it was just something different. And plus, it was his time. Just his time.
Wow, Ritch. So, all right. So here we are. The pandemic's winding down. What's cooking for you now moving forward? I mean, are you leaving your house yet? What do? You going to see your parents?
Yeah. We're going out. Right? We're going out right now. We're I'm starting to try to book some dates for that history show. We have friends visiting from LA this weekend. We're going to go out and see some shows. So we're doing stuff. We're going to see some live music shows.
Wait. They're doing live music in venues like inside?
Yeah, but it's reduced capacity, So instead of 100%, it's like 25, 30%, something like that. So reduce capacity, wear a mask, and enjoy the music. And so we have some friends coming. We'll go. There's some restaurants that are seating inside. Same thing, reduced capacity. But they also have a lot of patio restaurants here in Asheville. Right. Still work. Mm-hmm. So we have some friends coming. They've had their shots. We've had our shots.
And are you fearless about going to venues that are inside and stuff? Because
I'm not. Like, I feel like I got the shot. I mean, I feel like I'm inoculated. I feel like I still stay away from people, wear my mask for them and for me.
Mhm.
and I'm okay right now.
And how about the work? What have you been writing through the pandemic?
I'm just continue writing. You know, I'm writing. I wrote this. You know, working on another book, and on the history of stand-up comedy, just basically based on the show that I do, right? On the history of stand-up comedy, and did some work with other people, writing stuff for them. And,
You wrote, did you write, you wrote the screenplay of Bill Maher's of True, I love True Story. It's
yeah, I did write a screenplay. He was going to adapt it. You know, he liked the screenplay I did for him, adapting of his book. But then that show, the Showtime thing came out. I'm Dying Up Here came out. It was the same era, about 1979, 1980. So Bill kind of shelved his HBO plans then, and I don't know whether he's going to bring it back now that that show's been off for a year or two or not. I don't know. But I did write the adaptation. The book's a good book, really good book.
It's a wonderful book. I love that book. Very, very funny. Well, Rich, I don't know that I had expectations, but you exceeded all of them. This was so fun, and I learned some things.
You're fun. You're fun. You're fun. Thank you. You're a good interviewer. You're fun. Thank you.
Thank you. I just love this. Thank you so much for your patience up top, trying to get through all this technical stuff. We never got the notification sent out, but I'll just be posting it all over the place. And the people who are meant to see it.
Let me know, and I'll put a thing. You know.
Excellent.
Cool, Vicki.
But just be warned, Facebook doesn't add views. People will watch it, but they just won't click them. They won't add them, but it doesn't matter. As long as people see it, that's all that matters. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend with your friends from LA. Thank you so much for doing this. I look forward to next time.
All right. Thanks, Vicki.
Take care. Bye-bye, Rich.
Yeah.